Hey folks, how's it going? Matt Ryder here. It is day 28 of National Poetry Month 2020. I'm here to read some poems today. I've gotten to the W's section. I did skip Tennyson. I didn't really feel like reading proof rock. But nevertheless, I'm going to read three poets for you today, or at least the first part of the day. There's a lot of W poets that I like with W names. So I'm going to start with the women of W. That sounds weird. But I'm going to have three of my favorite um, uh, women's voices in poetry. And I'll get started right away. So the first one I'm going to read, and I don't have the actual book, I have the uncorrected proof of a book by Rebecca Wolff, who runs Fence Books, and is an amazing poet. And I wanted to read for my students a serial poem because they're working on a serial poem. So this one has some sections in it, so I'm going to read a couple of sections. The name of the poem is called, The Sustained Project. Number one, Beastly Matronly. The season was open and it called to me. An informality, dozens of wooden soldiers, more than the usual army, none of the usual goose-stepping here, though. It all happened so fast, ovulation, creation, cremation. I certainly don't believe any of these historical figures ever existed, said these words, or constructed those tremendous arches. But I could murder you with this toothpick if I wanted. Retinally inscribe my extremity, lot in life, schedule as attachment, liking that informality, all told, blood-doping manumission, the things I see when I open my eyes, unadvised, never look upon a stranger for more than a minute. As in a dream, he becomes your reality, and taking your hand makes a menace of himself. Potent. I don't think that's potent. Ambitious and driving force in the business of conclusion, and a young one with a following already behind him, in my breast together with the rest. 2. Changing its character, I look stronger than I am, given to us to evolve out of what now? Wearing a flower dressed on a hot day? What is that anymore? I do not wish to leave my home, not out of fear, but because it is more beautiful. The trees have gathered there. Good, the rain will hold the dust down. A new subject? Quantifiable? Not like my fragrance. With an entomologist's curiosity, I tell you phone. Phone. The only matter is light. Spatially, in the physical plane, then you fan out and find their ways. 3. Inquire within. So those of my students are paying attention. These are the sections. Each section has its own little subtitle to it. 3. Inquire within. Put a cap on it. An opportunity for rest. Now you have reached the limits of my intelligence. Not properly described as a scheme, more a reason to be young, white, and serial. If your sign said, I'm lonely, we would sit down beside you on a sidewalk. Sit outside, all your dressing, transparent. And what if she can't speak or hear or see? What if she is a character in a movie, beating a retreat from the public self under the road troll? 4. Stoma. Out of sight, out of mind, terrestrial basis, memento of childhood's prognosis, cogito, the non-visible death. Cogito, the non-visible death. It really freaks me out. The power yet, and the slipping word, man's billboard, 10 commandments, still capped in text. There are no unnecessary burdens. Think of my mother having an MRI, rolled in, singing to the tube. The technician. For some people, this is impossible. He cross-eyed looks on onions and buys potatoes. 5. That's the last section. You take me to lunch. With ballad fists. Oh, sorry. I messed that up. With bald fists. I like ballad fists. I'm going to put that on my loan. Sorry, Rebecca. I'm stealing that. With bald fists, unit of meaning, the huge sphere of influence into which I step, already written for me, or written itself as I write it, ahead of my pen, in front of allegiance, short legs identify the runner as a child by intervals. Between muffled footfalls, you claim William Blake for your own. And then the child snuck up behind me and stood there. I could feel nothing displaced by the child's weight waiting on the back of my head. And what is the last name of your wife? Blake. Even just the apprehension of it. All these things are hard to do at once. A trot between the eggs, the customer demand. In God's dictionary, the words faithful, humble, and famous are synonymous. Right on with the new facility. Just the erotic life, please, your erotic life together. A whole other language. The word violator is somewhere hidden in parvenu. 6. Howler. It's the last part of this poem. And again, each section does a little something different, but all leads towards this entire goal of the poem. 6. Howler. These people tend to act differently, a smaller group, but they tend to act better, for I am the genie of self-critique, increased sensitivity to one color next to another, the blue jay's head being slightly empurpled beside the royal blue of his tail feathers, psychic school of emboldenment. Develop this further till, can you be more specific? I might like music more if I knew that you liked it. I have made the world ready for me. Rebecca Wolff. Amazing poems, amazing poet. Next poet that was a huge influence, very huge influence on my life. Probably, so Catherine Wagner, I got to study with her at Boise State University. She was the one who taught my first class at Boise State University because Martin Fuller Smith couldn't get into the country because of green card issues. So I'm going to read this poem by her, and I must say that she offered me a lot of good advice when writing poetry. But there was no better advice than just listening to her poems themselves, because they were doing things that I couldn't do and wanted to do. And again, I'm going to use what she might not refer to as a serial poem. It's a poem in multiple parts. I'm going to read it for you, and it's called Imitating, and it's from this amazing book called Macular Hole, which came out in like 2000, a long time ago. But a beautiful book nonetheless, and from Rebecca Wolff's Imprint Fence Books, which is also a great company and putting out wonderful books and wonderful literary journal. So I'm going to read this for you, Imitating. So it says Imitating, and this says Utah, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, November 2001. Again, I also want to read this poem because that was kind of when I was out there as well. Imitating. And a very unique part of this poem. Not that the serial nature of it is in sections, but if you could see, the sections are kind of dulled out by the capital use of the giant bold letter, which is very unique and interesting. Imitating. Hatred and doom. Took it torquing jealous into my gut. I flamed and I came kindness. I hoped was, this is tough to read. Let me go back. Look. Hate and doom. Took it torquing jealous into my gut. I flamed and I came kindness. I hoped I was kind and good and fretted, my tongue with pink and raw serrations. I imitated nobody in my hate. I was alone. I harnessed my powers and graphed onto the ranks of trees, on the army sergeants, onto the army sergeants, the prickle close cropped. I was trying to pie myself comfortably so I would be delicious and secure in my shell. A song. Nothing to grieve about, nothing to do, no one to save, I love you. And I don't care how hurt you get. My dear treasure, gold-pitted, wicked center, ladling grim of the heart, splash shit treasure splashed on my shirt and burned myself. I didn't have time not to burn myself. The trajectory of the pan too important, and I fucked it up, opening myself to its important. I did not defend myself. I fucked it up onto the floor, my raisin hole, and the floor was totally impassive. I knew I would scream if I didn't write it down because I needed to be alone, reproducing. I was imitating. I danced in the back of the car. I danced in the back of the car, danced my feet on the roof. Happy. What is happy? Energy for now, and now the next, and for the next thing. It is capability. I can be in the back of the car. It is my house. Open graded, speed. My friends live in my house. They move my house. My metal is ruffled and standing straight up. It's brusquely, strictly up my spine, which is fun and means I could eat or east anybody who tried to kiss my mouth. I could east or west them because of my metal, and I wouldn't be imitating anybody. I might be imitating the radio or the egg I ate, but I was breakfasted in the miracle spreading out above my head and moving its center over someone else's head. I was jealous and flew at the person, and the miracle bewitched me. Excuse me. I soaped myself and presented myself in a soft light, a breaking light. I would thank you for embracing me and your head. Then I was pushing away on your head with my feet into the huge bright horse I was inside of, and I knew I was imitating because my legs could make no gestures that had not already been made. Why was I writing so much? Because I was impressed and saddled up and ridden? God was not personal to me. God would become personal to me when I thought I was so sexy, which was craven. God was neither personal nor impersonal. It was a questionnaire. I drew a picture for the questionnaire of a man in flared trousers, and there was me wearing a fuckable mighty. That was my sweater. The questions were inside like candy, passing Simon la sac. My greed was outrageous, power outrageous. I felt all better and feverish. My brain was hyper-translucent and exercised with rumpling, tumbling skin, which I held gently over my brain like a blanket or weird threat of cutting it off from the world. Oh my God, my chest got cut off in the mine. I was mine, and I was going to dig myself a jewel. I dug a little bone in me. I dug a little bone-shaped hole in me. I loved it. Hello, you fuckers. Dug around in their making. My emergencies go off. I thought they were love bells or runaway truck ramps. I'm so hungry. I'm hungry. I'm not so hungry. The last little part of the poem. Felt so alert, I was frightened. Had to keep my eyes open really wide. Now slowed to research. Catherine Wagner. There's moments in there where you just see the image that she creates and you're like, what is that? And I've seen it before, but I can't identify it. And she says it in such a unique way that she frames it. It's a beautiful thing. So that was Catherine Wagner, Macular Hole. She also has a book called Miss America and a couple titles after that as well. And then the final poet or poetess of the day that I'd like to, or not of the day, but I might do some more later when we get to the other W's, because there's a lot of W poets that I love. But I was going to read it originally because, so this is the last poet of today, and this is a wonderful friend of mine by the name of Maura. This is her beautiful book called Another Bungalow. And Maura was one of the two other poets that I was studying with when I first started at Boise State University. It was me, Mark Brown, and Maura Way, Payne at the time, Maura at the time, not at the time. Maura Payne was her name at the time, now it's Maura Way. And I like Way, it's nice. Payne versus Way, I like Way. Either way, sorry Maura, I'm rambling. Anyway, I'm going to read some of Maura's poems, because when I was studying with her, she was doing things that same kind of like what I found in Cathy Wagner's poems, was there's little moments of language and image and humor that I wasn't able to achieve in my poems. And I look towards Maura and to see that happening in the poems. And I've always tried to imitate that, go back to imitating, which was the name of Cathy's poem. And I don't think I've ever been able to achieve that. I can't even speak this morning. But anyway, I'm going to read a couple poems of hers for you. And I really suggest that you go out there and get this book. It came out last year, maybe. And it's her first book. And I'm so proud of her, and I'm so amazed by her writing abilities. So I'm going to read a couple poems from here. I'm just going to skip around. Our town. The new drama teacher said we all had accidents. We said, we didn't. He said, He made us say greasy without the Z. Could have, would have, stemming our does. Case of the Mondays. Concerns about pollution. Gone. The sweetness of orange drink. The tang of Earl and vinegar. Because then I noticed and I was ashamed. So I didn't do the accents that well, but it's supposed to be a lot of accidents in there. Accidents in there. What else do I want to read? I want to read it all. Sound advice. If you find a few sets of realistic and well-made scrubs, you may never really get dressed again. Scrubs also generate respect in our society. Sadly, this is not always true of our pajamas. In case of an emergency, shout, "I'm sorry, I'm a vet tech," unless, of course, it is a cat who is dying. Then run. All right, here's a Jersey poem. In Maura, the rhododendron. In Maura, the rhododendron grow as tall as dogwoods, but no one believes in New Jersey anymore. Kilmer's trees and tracks, much more lovely than his rest stop, where I call from to say I'll be there soon. Payphones feel as old as granite. The crisp pressure of neat squares, a job to do. Each number issues its own reports, digits remembered as design, triangles and crosses. Go ahead and finger the cool ribbed snake. Speak into the gray pickup speak into the gray, pick up so much left by other hands and mouths. Ugh, right now, that's so disgusting. The slickumed man in khaki circles, but keeps his distance. This is to know your limits, your effect on others. Back home, my rhododendron droop in humid mulch. They are so young and disconnected, never ever had to call to stop making a phone call. Sorry, I'm screwing up poems today. It's been a long month. I apologize more, especially because they're your poems. Like my outfit today, by the way? Okay, anyway, let's see what else we got for Maura. I want to read them all. I wish I could sit here and read the whole thing to you. Lever. The fever broke. It's just one of the ways I show love. Everything I eat is poison, but I stay in line, getting better and better with old human mandible. I need a name for my attitude. It's not good. It pivots, but you've taken a load off. Arms can also be a fulcrum of support. Curb strip. What makes me look away? The stern intensity of the pooping dog shake, or the wild hair sad sack behind him about to wave a grocery bag mittened hand? He thinks he must know me. I look really familiar to him. That's me. By the way, yeah, it's me. I'm walking my dog there. Okay. Oh. At the dinner. Salami sandwich, hold the mayo, stares at me from a heavy plate. He is so cold and unforgiving. Oh, it is my heart. It is my heart. Oh, for a nice bowl of ripe tomatoes. A choosing. Wasn't until recently I found out the word hadn't always been tiger. I too plant marigolds. Holler, America. Salient. I'm just having so much fun reading your poems more than I have all my life. Thank you. Not all my life, but since 2000, since I met. Salient. The man got out of his green Miata and walked briskly with a long heirloom watermelon under his arm, the Bradford, the sweetest. Zucchini was soon turned into spaghetti noodles, squash blossomed, and I knew all about it from television. Freeman High School wants the rebel mascot back, but Nat Turner is not an option under consideration. Balmy Battle of the Crater, summer, can't stay in trenches forever. I don't know, these little moments that I just want to be in the middle of. Let me pick the last one that I'm going to read for you guys. Buck Moon. I'm going to end with this one. Thank you, Rebecca and Catherine and Maura, for amazing poems, and I recommend that everybody goes out there and checks out their poetry. Buck Moon. My antlers came in. The halfway point of the summer reeks of botched casseroles. I saw an artichoke fully blooming. Pain bored a hole in my forehead, and luckily something came out. I cannot afford to hunker. Eating everything in sight, I shed my only velvet. It's been a year, but I didn't spare enough to make the difference. I like the soft pedicles, even if they weren't going to get me anywhere. In the garden, I can smell the woman and her pungent kitchen. Next year, I'll leave antlers in the oak forest for the rabbits to gnaw. Her garden will be gone. Not all of us are made for this life, eating flowers before they even jackpot, perfecting the rut. Take care, folks. Have a great day. Hopefully the weather is going to be improving all across the nation. And stay safe, stay clean, and tell somebody you love them. Take care, folks.